Now, the latest figures show 105,000 young people in Scotland are looking for work at the moment. Politicians of all parties launch strategies, they put forward proposals and they hold summits to try to tackle this problem. So what are they actually delivering on the ground? Here's Laura Bicker.
They're calling it a lost generation. Thousands of 18 to 24-year-olds are searching for a chance or even a hope of some employment.
There's just no really jobs out there. I really want to be in the trade, but no tradesmen aren't really taking on apprenticeships at the moment, and you just try so hard on the application and you don't really get a return from them.
18-year-old Sarah Thorne is part of Street League, a project to give her sports coaching skills. She's been unemployed for 2 years.
I've did some courses to help me get ready for work, but never gained anything out of them. It was basically 12 weeks help and then drop back to do your own thing again, to go back up and sign that book every 2 weeks, and you were on your own, so it was horrible.
22-year-old Daniel Terry has always dreamed of being a sports coach.
Politicians could organise more programmes for people to get qualifications, so employers can't say, no, you're not qualified, because most employers won't take people on without qualifications. They could organise more programmes to get people into working in environment groups so that they get their confidence up. So that's, I think, a big issue with people that have not got jobs right now, lack of confidence.
This is where some of those young people hope to find work. This is the National Indoor Sports Arena. It's being built for the Commonwealth Games in 2014, and there are thought to be around 55 job opportunities here. But the Scottish Government say there are 105,000 under 25-year-olds looking for work. They say they are creating apprenticeships, working with employers to create opportunities. But the young people we've spoken to say they need help now, not sometime in the future.
Well, the Youth Employment Minister, Angela Constance, wasn't available to come on today. Instead, in Edinburgh, we have the SNP's Marco Biaggi. He sits on the Education and Culture Committee. Here in the studio with me is Sarah Thorne, who you saw in the film there, Jo Swinson, the Liberal Democrat MP, who is also Nick Clegg's private parliamentary secretary, and Kezia Dugdale, Scottish Labour's youth employment spokesperson. Thank you all very much indeed for coming in. Marco, if we start off with, what exactly is your strategy now in terms of youth employment?
Well, you see from the Scottish Government that we're using really the powers of the Scottish Parliament to their utmost. You see 25,000 modern apprenticeships being created and funded every single year. That's 60% up on 2007. And the important thing about modern apprenticeships in Scotland compared to England is that they all happen in the workplace, whereas in England, many of them happen in classrooms. Beyond that, you have 20,000 training opportunities every year. And Scotland's, indeed the UK's first ever Minister for Youth Employment, coordinating activity across all the strands of government.
So do you think you're doing all that you can?
I think we're doing all that we can with the powers that we have. If you look at the Scottish Parliament, our main lever to tackle youth unemployment is through education and training. That hasn't stopped us being creative with other areas. For example, securing money from the European Social Fund for more employability and trying to use public sector purchasing power so that those big companies that bid for public contracts have to show how they are helping apprentices as well.
OK. Kezia Dugdale, is that good enough?
No, I don't think so, and I don't think it's any comfort to the 105,000 young people across Scotland that desperately want action from their government.
So how could you do it differently?
Well, one thing we wouldn't do is cut college budgets. The SNP have actually cut double the amount of money from colleges this week than they've put into youth unemployment.
But they're putting 1.5 billion a year into post-16 education.
Absolutely.
At a time when budgets are extremely restricted. Is it actually about the money, or is it about the strategy? Is it about how things are working on the ground?
I think it's about all three, and Labour is absolutely with the SNP when it comes to an all-government, all-Scotland approach to this. We want to see them use the buying power of government more effectively. That means being more ambitious with procurement. Big debate this week about the Forth Road Bridge. How many jobs is that going to create for young people in Scotland? I think there's a lot of unanswered questions for the SNP there, and the same goes for hospitals and schools that they plan to build.
Jo, we've heard that there's probably not enough coordination, some voluntary groups say, in the funding. One project, for example, had 15 different people funding it. Do you think that this is a subject in which pure party politics could be set aside a little bit and people could coordinate better?
I think so, and actually I think there's some welcome signs that that is starting to happen. So we've got, from a UK government perspective, there's the youth contract, £1 billion to invest in wage subsidies to create new jobs and also work experience. As we heard in the film, then often the lack of qualifications or experience can make it very difficult for young people to actually secure the jobs that they so badly need. And we're also making sure that we work alongside the Scottish Government to make sure those initiatives do dovetail together. But I absolutely agree that could always be done better.
Yeah, Sarah, you were in a project and you found that really useful. I mean, what was your project and what sort of skills did you learn there that you found useful?
Well, the first ever one that I ever attended was Prince's Trust. Basically, they helped me build my skills, get confident, and to be able to go and look for work. The next step I took was MI Technologies. They put me out on a work placement that I didn't enjoy, wasn't confident attending, for the simple reason that I was working crazy hours, just the same as anyone else, and I was getting paid under £1 an hour. Was the way it was working out. I mean, this world is not means tested.
So, Sarah, for you, what would be the biggest single thing or number of things that the politicians could do that would make people of your age, with your sort of experiences, feel that they would have a chance of a job in the future? What could be done, do you think?
Well, I walked into this course that's called Street League. It's a charity. Anything that we get is given through donations. I walked in, no confidence. This was 3 weeks ago, and now I'm here on national television speaking up. Just to back Street League and any other groups out with Street League that are going to help to get people into work and to build their confidence. I'm going to leave here with 6 qualifications. The downside is that it's not really sport that I want to do, it's care. Trying to get into a college course to do care when I don't have the qualifications I need is awful. It's 3 years I've been wanting to do care for and just can't get my foot in the door.
OK, so, well, Michael, isn't that a point, though, that a lot of very, very good work is being done through the voluntary sector? Young people are encouraged to go on these courses. They have a proven track record, and then the funding is pooled. I mean, what kind of continuity can you guarantee in any of these programmes at this stage?
Well, a lot of the funding opportunities are decided at local government level, and you see, for example, in my constituency in Edinburgh, an actual increase in the amount of funding that is available for voluntary sector projects working in employability that was passed just this week. I think there is a lot of recognition at local level that these projects are very valuable and need to continue to be funded. I've met a lot of young people who have been through the project, like Canongate Youth Project in my own constituency, that really do talk about the boost to confidence that provides and how that helps them find work. The more there are doom-laden stories about how the situation is very bleak, the more that hope can be knocked down. I think it's important to have the message that there is a chance for all young people, and indeed that for young people with reasonable levels of qualifications, unemployment is on the way down.
Because when we look at the effects of some of the programmes at the moment, an apprenticeship used to be something that would be done for years, a very rigorous training. The current apprenticeship programme is focusing on 16 to 19-year-olds, and then you have after that this mass of young people who can't get work. I mean, what is the answer to longer-term unemployment amongst young people?
I think there's actually a huge opportunity for the government to address some of the structural unemployment issues we've got in our system, to tackle that inequality at the heart of our jobs market in this country. And that's really about investing in young people, getting them involved in things they're interested in, giving them meaningful, sustained experiences of work and supporting them to the point of being job ready.
But where does the money come from?
Well, Isabel, it's more a matter of what do you do if you don't invest this money now, because the cost in the future is far greater than anything in investing in young people like Sarah now.
Do you have any sense that possibly we're not getting the education balance right? Because business is often saying that there's far too much emphasis on trying to encourage people to go into college courses and university courses, and actually we should be stepping back and in schools looking at what might be more relevant.
Well, I certainly think that you do get that complaint from businesses sometimes that young people don't necessarily have the qualifications and experience that they require. And that's why things like the youth contract are so important. And Nick Clegg's pushed very hard for that £1 billion of investment. That will actually enable young people to get that experience in the workplace. That also gives employers the opportunities to see the talent that's out there. And, you know, I think Sarah's an excellent example of that as somebody that's got a huge amount to contribute. And it also gives young people that on-the-ground experience of what it's like to be in the workplace, what the world of work is actually like, rather than solely having the academic and the college experience. That, of course, is important too, and I was glad to see that under pressure from the Liberal Democrats and Willie Rennie in the Scottish Parliament that the cuts to colleges were significantly reduced in the Scottish budget this week, because it is also important that those places are available for people like Sarah who want to go along and get qualifications so they can get into the jobs market.
Sarah, do you have any concerns at all that you've worked very hard to get where you are, you've been enormously successful at what you've been trying to do, it's been very beneficial for you. Have you any concerns that you will then put a lot of effort and energy into a college place, get there, get your qualification
And not have a job at the end
Yeah,
of it?
is that
Oh, I
some-
definitely do, yeah. Basically, my brother done a modern day apprentice, dropped out of school, and he wanted to prove that he never dropped out of school because he wasn't clever enough to do it. It just wasn't for him. He trained hard for 5 years to get his qualifications to be a recognised tradesman, tiling, and now there's no work for him. He's just to minimum wage because there's no jobs out there for him.
And for other of your friends who've done this, I mean, how disheartening is it that you really do the best that you can and you give it everything you've got and yet there's nothing?
It's demeaning. It knocks you down a level. What's the point in building all this confidence up to get out there and go for it, for it not to be recognised at the end of it? It's degrading as well. And also the fact now that you get a wee job diary when you go to the job centre, you have to fill it in. It's full of lies, because you worry that your benefits are going to be sanctioned if you don't do this.
So we won't go down that road with you, Sarah, just now for various reasons. But Marco Biaggi, isn't that a point that no one sitting around here, whatever your political persuasion, nobody is suggesting for a minute that anyone is casual or offhand in their attitude to somebody like Sarah who gives so much and then can be knocked down if she doesn't get work. It's absolute given that everyone's taking it very seriously. But what I'm asking you is about the priorities that you're choosing at the moment. Is it right to choose to focus on the 16 to 19-year-olds in the apprenticeships, to put so much money into that when older graduates are also struggling for jobs? Is it right that not enough money is going in, many people argue, to the early years where you could make a massive difference? I mean, why are you choosing the priorities you're choosing?
Well, the 16 to 19-year-old age group is very important because when people leave compulsory education, you really have to ensure that they have an opportunity. The Scottish Government's new Opportunities for All programme is going to be a complete landmark in that regard, offering to everyone in that age bracket that doesn't have employment, either education or a training place. Now, if you can stop people becoming unemployed at that stage, you can have serious benefits further on.
Okay.
But I wouldn't say there isn't an emphasis on the early years. Preventative spend in that area has been a major hallmark of the budget. And the 25,000 apprenticeships do include many in the 20 to 24 age bracket as well. There is a commitment across the board, but there's a recognition that for young people, really, even in good economic times, it's hardest for them to find work.
Well, because isn't that the bottom line, that in hardened economic times, it's the young people who are going to suffer most?
Oh, absolutely, and there's no disagreement in politics about that. Yeah. Marco talks about the 16 to 19 agenda, and it's a very worthy, bold step the SNP have there to give every young person an opportunity, but it's got to be meaningful. In my experience of some of the activity agreements that the government is investing in, is it can be as little as 2 hours a week. That's not a positive destination for a young person. People like Sarah just want a job, they just want a chance, they just want to go forward with their lives.
Right. We have to leave this here. Thank you all very much indeed for that particular thanks to you.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming in.
Me.
Well done. Julie, just before you go, you have a statement out today saying that the SNP should drop their plans to allow 16 and 17-year-olds to vote in the referendum, but we also understand that you're having a meeting with a campaign group promoting the vote for 16 and 17. Isn't there a bit of a contradiction
I'm
there?
a strong supporter of votes at 16. I think it should happen for all elections, and I'll continue to campaign for that. I don't think with the voting franchise we should pick and choose, and in fact the SNP's plans are particularly incoherent when you look at the fact that they're not even planning a new canvass, so it wouldn't even even be votes for 16 and 17-year-olds. It would be votes for some 16 and three-quarter-year-olds, some 17-year-olds, and actually create a huge amount of division amongst young people.
But you support the principle of 16 and 17-year-olds voting, just not in this referendum?
Not for one-off ad hoc referendums or one-off ad hoc elections. I think that all those who support votes at 16 should work together to get that change on the statute book for good for all elections.
Thank you very much indeed. Thank you. Now, housing charities are warning that unless more affordable accommodation is made available in Scotland, a growing number of people will remain stuck in temporary homes. Gilly Matheson reports now on why new legislation to end homelessness by 2012 could actually result in making it more difficult for those in need to find a permanent home.
Andy is homeless and living in a hostel run by the Bethany Christian Trust in Edinburgh. The City Council says it cannot provide permanent housing for everyone who's homeless. Instead, they concentrate on finding homes for the people who need help the most.
Your non